Awesome, awesome, awesome. Welcome, guys, to our event, Debunking, the false narrative of Black fatherhood. So, my name is Porscha Scott. I am here at Wavemaker. We are partnering with our GroupM family, and we have an amazing panel for you today. So I'm going to introduce your moderator for you, and I'm going to introduce our wonderful lineup of speakers. Guys, I really want you to lean into this because this is a powerful conversation, a conversation that isn't often had in the places and spaces that we work in, but it is so needed today. So first and foremost, we have none other than our moderator, Marlon Dundas. Marlon works over at GroupM on the multicultural team as a senior associate. He's going to really lead this conversation and ignite a dialogue amongst our following panelists, which number one, which you guys from our GroupM family should know, none other than Kirk McDonald, our GroupM North America CEO. We have from the Dad Gang, founders Sean Williams and Kevin C. Riley. Kevin is also a Bronx District 12 council member. And we have Keni Thacker, founder and chief creative officer of 100 Roses from Concrete. So the panel, guys, let's get going. Marlon, all yours.
Thank you, Porscha. Nice to meet everyone here. I'm coming to you live from my mother's living room. She has recommended that I show everyone here all the work she's done to the house. So I hope she's happy. So thank you. Porscha, historically, Black fathers have been labeled as absent, criminal, inactive in their child's development. The conversation we're going to have today is going to work to shatter those negative depictions and shine a light on some of the personal experiences of Black fathers who are empathetic and positive role models in their children's lives. So without further ado, we're going to kick it over to Gary and Emilio, just a short video to set us up for the conversation.
I do agree there's a misconception about Black parenting and Black fathers in America.
That a lot of individuals believe that we aren't involved in our children's lives.
But that can be further from the truth.
Media influence plays a very big role in how the world perceives us.
We change the way that people see us as Black fathers by doing this.
Ooh, girl, ain't nothing wrong with the curl.
Ready, steady, go. Yeah, think I'm playing with you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My mission was to challenge that negative stereotype one image at a time. So I began to record videos of me and my kids and the things that we do every day. Then I started to upload them.
Time to nestle in their ball.
Soon, other dads started to notice and they began to send their videos too. From there, the Dad Gang started to become popular. Then we decided to take it one step further and started doing events around the country. Suddenly, we had a movement.
Sean, so here we go. In a recent interview with ABC News, you mentioned being intentional is part of your parenting style to combat certain negative stereotypes. What effect can these misconceptions have on the Black man?
Sorry?
Have on the Black man, these negative stereotypes?
I mean, the negative stereotypes, it really affects the entire Black family, especially the Black man. You know, when you see yourself in media, portrayed as a missing dad or a criminal, and all these negative stereotypes that swirl around for Black men, you know, we're all consuming it, and in consuming it, we you know, you tend to believe what you see, even though you might not be that, you tend to believe it. You know, when I started the Dad Gang, the mission was to change the perception of Black fathers to our ethnic counterparts, but very soon we realized that perception and that stereotype affected the Black community too. So I think positive imagery definitely plays a huge role in you know, the way Black men see themselves. And yeah, for sure, I think it's important because we also believe it too. If that's what the media is pumping out, the Black community, the Black man will also believe that that's what the majority is.
I think what's powerful is when I remember following your story, how you started the Dad Gang was just such an impactful scenario. Do you mind sharing with us what happened in the grocery store?
Yes, so I live in a predominantly white neighborhood in Long Island, and I had my baby. She was young enough to be carried in a chest carrier, and an older white woman approached me and she said it was so good to see that I stuck around. And she initially didn't think it was offensive. She thought she was complimenting me, and I was shocked by it. I tried to school her, but I left that interaction just very shocked that people still really believed in that stereotype. I assume she didn't see many young Black dads like myself being active with their children, and that was really the reason I said, instead of arguing and instead of trying to fight this thing with anything negative, I said, let me start a platform that can celebrate Black fatherhood, support Black dads, and hopefully that circulating those images and experiences of us doing what we do best can change that narrative and start to rewrite the narrative showing Black dads being active. And it really wasn't that hard to find, to be honest. This kind of content is, we're active, so it wasn't a hard thing at all.
And I think what's so powerful to note too is even with the research, we often like to take stats and say X% shows this, X% shows that. In 2010, there was an article that came out by NBC. They stated that 70% of Black kids are born to unmarried mothers. Whether true or not, the statement went on to be loosely translated as 70% of Black children don't have fathers, which is so false. Because if you look at the CDC's research, 70% of fathers that are the most involved in their children's lives are Black dads, superseding that of Hispanics and of Asian and other nationality of fathers. And so I think it's just so imperative that with telling these stories, that we allow these false narratives to be reshaped by what we know to be true. So I want to pivot this question next to Kevin. So according to a 2010 census, for every 100 Black women, there's only about 83 Black men. This phenomenon, the 1.5 million missing Black men, can be traced back to Jim Crow, to segregation, and to present day mass incarceration. Kevin, how much influence has our judicial system had on the public perception of the Black father?
Well, I think if you take a close look at the criminal justice system, it has been disproportionated when it comes to Black men being arrested for the same crimes that our counterparts, white men, will definitely be arrested for. When you look at drug cases, cocaine cases, I believe in 2010, the Congress passed Fair Sentencing Act, which would help with some of these incarcerations, but it's still a big issue. Unlike Sean's story, my story comes from me watching my father be incarcerated in front of me, losing him at 7 years old, and then looking at the media and also seeing this in my household and going to visit him in prison. I really thought this was the same path that I was going to go down. And it's difficult. It's scary, and you really try to do everything in your power to like fight against it. But if you're going to be putting us in predicaments where we're not able to provide for our families, a lot of Black men, when you're a man in your household, you want to be able to provide for your family. You want to be able to take care of your family. But if you look at the employment rate with Black communities, you look at the incarceration rate within Black communities, we're not given an opportunity to provide or even stay around long enough to be around our families to take care of them. So this is an issue that's been plaguing the Black families for years. And then when separation comes, it's very difficult for us to re-engage back with our youth, with our children, because we've been separated for so long. I haven't seen my father in over 20 something years. After he was incarcerated, he was deported right back to Jamaica. I remember when I had my first daughter in 2015, I went down to see him in Jamaica in 2017. So I didn't see him for over 23 years. And then re-engaging back with him was so challenging because we missed so many years. He missed my prime, points in my years that really played a very strong role in my career now. So it's just kind of difficult if we're not going to be putting our people, our Black men in position to actually take care of their family and just incarcerating them. We only make up 13% of the population in America. But if you look at jails, we make up over 53 to 60% of inmates in jail. So that doesn't make any sense. So it's a very, very big it's a very big problem, and it's like slavery, modern day slavery, what we're really looking at today.
Wow. And so even with that, when we think about that representation, it continues to get perpetuated when we think about what we see in media, what we see in advertising. And so, Keni, this question is for you. 100 Roses from Concrete's purpose, right? Your organization's purpose mentions the need to centralize a space for those that are least represented in advertising. With this lack of diversity in mind, what role do you think media has played in perpetuating the Black father to the masses?
Well, media, and it's an honor to be here surrounded by so many kings that are so on point. So hopefully I fit in. But it's the media, the Black man in particular has been the public enemy number one to the media since the creation of the media. So that's why they perpetuate these negative stereotypes of what a Black man is and what a Black man could even be, because it's like, oh, this is what he could be, which is negative. And they've perpetuated that for at least over 100 years. Even before there was television, they still portrayed us in ways that of servitude, that we could only be like, you know, the servers or whatever the menial type of jobs that they thought we were qualified for. But I think that all came out of fear of the greatness of what Black men can actually deliver to this world. Because one thing that all four of these gentlemen know is that Black men actually deliver daily. Even outside of our family units, we deliver that passion, that purpose, and that greatness every single second of our day. Why? Because the world does not stop to remind us that we are Black men. But the thing is, it not only hurts Black men, but it also hurts our women, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, you know, his mother didn't have the resources, so that's why everything went bad. No, excuse my language, but bad shit just happens, okay? And it happens regardless of what color you are, what gender you are. But for some reason, when it comes to the Black man in particular, like the spotlight is 10,000 times bigger than any other man of any other race. Just as Kevin said, our numbers are higher in places that are considered negative. So they don't see brothers like Kirk that are leading global organizations, right? They'd rather say, oh, well, you know, are all his kids his? Like, white guys don't get questions like that at all, right? They don't get questions like that. But I remember being asked, like when I was 19, like, do you have any kids? No, I'm a sophomore in college. Leave me the hell alone. You know what I mean? So I think the media actually needs to be held accountable for the negative images that they post in whether it's TV, whether it's film, and definitely in advertising, because it happens a lot. And that's why I have a big mouth. So I'm going to continue to call out whether it's brands or even agencies that put Black men in stereotypical positions instead of preparing them for positions of power.
Amen to that.
Amen.
That's excellent. So we have Marlon back here. I'm gonna kick it back over to him as he has our next question for Kirk.
February 5th, 2021 would have been Trayvon Martin's 25th birthday. Kirk, as you watch your children grow into the people they're meant to be, what do you fear most that the world won't see in them?
So with your permission, I'm gonna remove a word there, which is I've been intentional about my parenting, and I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to do that. So that fear is not part of how I contemplate that. We have to take control of our situation. So, you know, I'm from the generation I still think exists where the adage to our community has been, you have to be twice as good sometimes to get half the distance. So built into both my kids is this message that you have to be exceptional. So I don't fear that the world not miss anything, because they're going to be exceptional and they're not going to be dependent on anyone else to be who they need to be. This goes into my son's head every time I get 5 minutes with them, 3 minutes with them, and it's in my daughter's head, which is don't be dependent on anyone or anything. Don't expect anyone to do anything. And I don't mean that to be cynical, but it is the responsibility I thought I had to cascade and give them, which is own your decisions, make sure the decisions you make create opportunity. I tell them I never worry about their capabilities. I wanted them to learn judgment and to situational awareness. I grew up in some pretty bad neighborhoods in my growing up, and situational awareness is something that we have to have. And despite that their growing up was different than mine, I wanted them to have that. So the world may miss an opportunity to see how exceptional they are, but then that's the world's loss. But I'm not fearful that they're going to be exceptional. They're going to be exceptional because they were bred to be, they were taught to be.
Great answer. Great answer.
Marlon, we're losing you, man. We love the lip movement.
Well, while
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, you're
Yeah,
back.
you're back.
Oh,
Okay.
that one was on me. I had myself on mute.
All right, no worries, Marlon.
So to piggyback off of that question, of Kirk's answer, to the rest of the panelists, do you choose to protect your children, or do you choose to expose them to what's ahead?
Of course, huh?
I don't think we have a choice to hide them from what the world is, because the world is the world. I mean, you know, even as young, my son who's 3 years old, they sometimes they wonder why, you know, my business is the dad gang. I wear it all day, and they start saying the dad gang, and questions are going to start to arise as to why the dad gang even exists. So even though you don't tell them, it's nothing you can hide from them. And the best way to protect them is by letting them know exactly what it is. You know, even for a bite-sized portion for him, you know, I got to get creative as to how I share with him the world is set up. But, you know, we got Black children, and Black children need to be protected by being aware of what's going on. You know, they're going to have, it's going to be their world to deal with, you know, as we phase out. They gotta know. So the sooner they become active in what's, you know, in what's going on, and the more they're aware is the likelihood of them staying alive. You know what I mean? It helps them survive. So I don't think we have a choice as to whether or not we should shield them from what, you know, the world is at all.
And just to piggyback off of what Sean said, I think it's if you look at the time we're in right now, our children are subjected to a lot because of social media and the internet. Back in the day, we had to run home, sign on to AOL, wait for that long to load up, so you could kind of, you know, be engaged with the world, AOL Messenger. But now our children are on Instagram, Twitter, and everything's kind of like shoved in their face. I'll give you an example. This year, last year when George Floyd passed away, I think I have never, and I say this now as a Black man, I have never been so sensitive in my life until I had children and got older. Like, anything makes me cry now. I can't even watch a movie. If it gets to me, it gets to me. And I want my daughters to see me crying, because growing up, when you see a Black man crying, as a young Black boy, you thought he was soft. You didn't think he was able to take care of his family, but that's not true. It's so far from it. But going back to where I was staying, when George Floyd got murdered, I woke up one morning, I was just crying. I was watching the news and I was just crying. And my daughter had asked my fiance, she said, "What's wrong with Daddy? What's wrong with Daddy?" And he said, "Daddy's sad because another Black man got murdered by the police." And it's all over. And she doesn't understand, because she thinks, you know, as a child, she thinks the police are here to save her, protect her. But when she sees instances like that, it's kind of hard for you to kind of shield her away from it. You have to kind of explain it to her. So I think with the time that we're living in today, where everything's kind of like shoved in your face, thrown in your face, our kids are forced to grow up faster than we were forced to grow up. It's kind of difficult to take them away from that. Even if you could take away the iPads and the MacBooks and you could take it away for a small period of time, but when they go to school, their friends may have it. Their friends may show it to them. So it's so challenging now to shield them away from society.
It sounds like, Kirk, you had an answer?
No. I said that's right. All I was going to do is affirm both, both these brothers for the fact my kids are older, right? So I've been doing this a little bit longer. But they have to know who they are now and always. My son was 11 years old when somebody called him the N-word in the bathroom in school. And that wasn't the first time he should be introduced to that. And that's all I think you have to remember as a parent, which is you have to prepare them for the world that they live in because it's real. And at least when that happened, he knew what to do and he knew how to stand his ground. Not to attack, not to retaliate, but not to back up either. And that happened because the conversation that happened before that. But that's what I think as parents we owe our, our kids. And you don't want to steal their childhood. You don't want to steal the part that is innocent. But some of these things are just, we live in a real world, as Sean said, and you just don't have a choice.
It sounds like for all three of those who just answered that, there was a moment where you're selfless, right? You're trying to impart on your children that you want them to be the best version of themselves, right? You want them to grow up to be as perfect as they possibly can be, or to be who they are. But before you had children, you were living for yourself. So at what point, right? And I'm going off script a little bit here. I'm hearing pretty much the same type of answer. At what point do you stop living for yourself and you're like, I will give everything to you. I will make, hey son, hey daughter, like this is it, like this is how it is I want you to live, or this is how it is. These are the principles I want to impart on you. My mom always told me that I didn't choose to be here. She goes, you didn't choose to be here. All right, I chose for you to be here. So until the day that you die, no matter how old you get, you're still my son. At what point does that click in the back of your minds that you're ready to just to sit here and to think about these conceptual approaches to how you raise your children?
I'd say I feel like it's different for everyone. For those who sometimes it clicks when you see your spouse pregnant. You know what I mean? Sometimes it clicks when that baby comes out and you're like, holy crap, like I got a baby in my hand. So I think it really depends on the level of maturity of that man, but it's a responsibility that it's gonna hit you at some point regardless, because the responsibility of taking care of a child is so great that you kind of have no choice. Whether it clicks or not, they are your responsibility. And if you don't respond to those responsibilities in a good manner, you risk putting your child in danger. You know what I mean? So for me, it kind of just clicked immediately. Well, not immediately. You're going to get better being a parent as you go, because there's no manual. So as these situations arise, you kind of know what you want to do with your child. If you had a dad in your life, you might have a blueprint. If you didn't have a dad in your life, you know at least what not to do. You're going to learn something either way. But I don't think, at least for me, it was almost immediate. I didn't know what my fatherhood journey would be like, but I knew that they were my main responsibility, and any and every way and anything I needed to do, I was going to do. I just got better at it as time progressed.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think there's not the same answer for everyone. But I will tell you this. Here's what we owe. We owe what Sean has started to the world, which is to represent the picture differently, because sometimes it's hard for you to be something that you've not seen. Yes. So to the Kevins of the world and the Kenny's of the world, when you don't have the model in front of you, it's a much more difficult thing to figure it out. Like, it's hard. The kids don't come with a manual, but if you don't even have a model and you don't get a manual, so kudos to them. But I do think organizations like the Dad Gang, things that Kenny's doing, we have to tell better stories about the reality of Black parenting overall, about the dads. And we have to show the images. Great concept, just to show those pictures in short narratives, because that at least starts turning it around. And then once you experience that, once you can introduce that to someone and they experience it, I just think it's addictive. Being a parent, being a dad is one of the most addictive things ever. Especially a dad of any girls. I mean, for all the girl dads out there, that's a whole next level thing. So I can't explain that to you. It happens for you.
Yeah.
Perfect segue to my next question. So, last year we lost Kobe Bryant, and Elle Duncan on ESPN told a story that he had with a conversation that she had with Kobe Bryant about him being a girl dad. to Kirk's point, how much that he was addicted to the raising of his daughters. And it's a different connection between a son and a father than it is a daughter and a father, right? And I don't have any children. I have a cat. That's about as close as I get to anyone's life in my hand. And I said yes to anyone.
You're a cat dad.
I'm a cat daddy. Yes, I am. For all the girl dads on the panel, can you please explain to us what it means to be a girl dad? What is that connection like with your daughter? I know Sean had mentioned in one of his previous interviews that his daughter has broken him down. I know Sean has worn tutus, face paint, makeup, nail polish. What is that like when you have a daughter?
I mean, I'm gonna just say this. Keep in mind that ain't for everybody, right? You don't have to do that, right? And I'm gonna say that because I recently shared a video of my daughter, my 5-year-old, putting makeup on my face. I don't care. I think when it comes to parenting, you got to do it your way, right? You got to be a dad your way, intentionally and unapologetically do it your way. So I do that. I let my daughters lay it out, and I don't mind. You know, the thing with being a girl dad, I feel like for me, and I really wanted my son when he came. At that point, I already had 2 girls, and so I just wanted a boy. You know how to be a boy, right? You think you see a boy and you're like, oh man, he's gonna be a little me. It's easy to train a kid to be a little you. You know what I mean? Like you know how you were raised. But when you have a girl, I think the approach is it softens you up. If you're intentional with your time, they'll take your time, take your attention. They'll wrap you around their pinky because it's something you automatically assume they're more fragile than your sons, automatically. And you even want to protect them from, you know, the dangers of what toxic masculinity might be, right? So you just have this incredible sense and urgency to protect and to spoil and to like treat these like delicate little girls with as much care and tenderness as possible. So I think it's definitely something I tapped into a lot more with the girls than I did, unfortunately, with my son, because he was, you know, I could bounce him off a wall and he was fine. But that's what it was for me, and I'm glad I was able to. I have the opportunity to experience raising daughters because it definitely changed my approach globally on how I deal with women. You know how I do with my mom. Up until then, I was a son, a husband, a brother, but never a dad to a female. That changes how you think of everything to do with women. Period. You know, so that's my 2 cents.
So I think
this is.
I'm sorry, Keni. Go ahead.
No, okay, cool. Go ahead, so this question hits home for me a whole lot as a girl dad in particular, because when Kobe passed, I'm gonna try not to get emotional here, but when Kobe passed, my family and I were out. We were out at a concert or whatever the case may be, and then the news came through on my wife's phone, and the way we were seated was myself, my daughter, and then my wife. And I'm not a Lakers fan, I'm a Knicks fan at heart, but I love Kobe. So when she told me that, I was in utter disbelief. Mm-hmm. But just due to the fact that my kid knows that whenever I'm in LA, I had to go see Kobe play. So she held my hand that entire event because she knew how much it affected me. And also the relationship between, Gigi and Kobe is similar to the relationship I have between my daughter and I. So like my daughter and I, we love Marvel stuff. So every first day, any Iron Man, whatever comes out, we're there together, or now home, we're watching it, together on TV. But that's something special that we have together. And due to the fact that I started later in life to have kids, I didn't have my first kid. Well, I only have one, but I didn't have her until I was like 35. So like I had time to do whatever whatever you do when you're a single dude, and then kind of come and have this, beautiful daughter. But I must say that the relationship that we have it taught me how my mother loves me, if that makes any sense. When you have a child, you learn how much your parent loves you. And I never thought I could love someone that much, like that you want to burst every day. Every day you just want to burst. You just want to hug them. You want to kiss them. And I mean, she's like 10 now, so she's like, chill, pops. But she still like understands it's coming from a place of protection, but in a place of love. And that's something that I know I'd never experienced it just due to the fact that, you know, I grew up with my mother. My mother was my mom and my dad. So I was able to kind of learn those fatherhood techniques actually from my mother, because she said, you know, when I was about to have her, she was like, you know, you can either be like your dad and be the invisible man, or you can just be a man. So that was a real big decision that I had to make when it came to having her and just being like the very best dad I could possibly be. It's because like you only get one shot at this when you really think about it. Even if you have multiple, you still, with those different personalities and those different psyches that you're building, you only get one shot to do that in your lifetime. So not being there is really not an option when you really think about it, regardless if it's a girl or a boy. But girls, like Sean said, they do something to you that is absolutely incredible. And so if anyone does not have a girl, you need to try. But so get busy. But they do something to you. And I'm pretty sure the other girl dads on here can relate. They just do something to you. It's intangible what they do to the way you handle yourself as a man, period. As you walk the street, it's just something absolutely incredible. And it's just something anyone that doesn't have a girl, if you're planning to have a girl, just get ready for like your life just gets better because you build so much more purpose. I will say that. And like you even get better at your damn job. Like it's insane like what they do to you, because you know that, you know what, after this 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, whatever your hours are, you're gonna go back and there's gonna be someone so excited to see you. And I think that's one of the incredible things about just being a father, period.
So I want to speak to piggyback of what Sean said about toxic masculinity. I think when my daughter was born, that changed everything. I was with my fiance for years. In 2015, when my daughter was born, I did not realize how much I was toxic when it was becoming a man, because I didn't have a man around me. So a lot of the male figures I looked up to were rappers that I watched growing up, were people in the neighborhood that I admired that thought were men that they really weren't. So you kind of get a wake up call when you have your daughter now to how you and Sean really hit it on the spot, how you treat women, and especially as Black men, how we treat our women. You really get a taste of it when you have your own daughter. My daughter watches it. I remember when my daughter was born, I remember me and my fiance got in a very bad argument, and she was just there watching it. And after that, I remember I was frustrated about something, and I kind of like raised my voice, and she just kind of got startled. And then that just kind of opened up to me like, listen, man, you have to be careful of how you address her, you approach her, and things of that nature, because she'll feel like this is something that's normal. So if a man talks to her and screams at her, she's gonna feel like that's a normal thing instead of having a real conversation. So I think when Sean spoke about that, that really opened up my eyes to how I treat women. Even though I was raised by my mother, but that's still your mother. How you treat your spouse, how you treat other women in society, that plays into so much after you become a girl dad. I love my daughter. My daughter really takes care of me. I was praising to have a son the second time, but then I had a second daughter, and like the way they both treat me, really, really, and I wouldn't be able to be the council member in the 12th district if it wasn't for them. I didn't get that admiration, the ambition until they were born, and they gave me that ambition, knowing that I could be so much more. So I think the toxic masculinity that a lot of us as Black men go through, it completely should wipe away when we become girl dads, because the way you treat a woman, you just have to think would you be happy if a man treated your daughter the same way? So you really have to think about that moving forward. So I think that's just my 2 cents on the girl dad. And I didn't like Kobe growing up, but when that happened, I was a big Allen Iverson fan. So I really didn't like Kobe growing up. But when that happened, I was really heartbroken. Just to see how much he believed in his daughter. I think one time they even asked him, Kobe, you gonna try for a boy? So you got like a little Kobe? He's like, no, why? I have a daughter. Like his daughter looked over and said, "Yeah, I got it. Don't worry about that. You don't have to have a boy." And even that energy he had with his daughter, that he believed in her so much that I don't need a boy to do the job. I have a powerful, strong black girl that could do even a better job. And that just instilled that in me. So shout out to the girl dads. Becoming a girl dad really saved my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Kirk, you want to follow that?
I don't think I need to add anything. I think the brothers capture it. Girl dads, what girls do to you is they shatter your stereotypes. If you're going to allow yourself to learn, it shatters your image of yourself, and it shatters the model or the image you've had of men. And you realize that they can be whoever they want to be if you give them the fuel they need. And you know, there's nothing better than to have all of your old stereotypes and norms challenged by this, you know, this little person who's coming up and saying, help me be all the things I should be. And I think Kevin caught it really well at the end, and Keni, you know, you become a different person, facing your stereotypes.
Thank you. So we're gonna kick it to Q&A soon. So I just have 2 more questions for the panel before we get over there. So anyone who's watching, please just, if you have any questions, there's a Q&A box on the bottom of the screen. Just type in your question, and we'll get to it soon. It sounds like all of you learned a lot from your kids. Conventional wisdom is you teach your children how to grow up, how to be adults, how to be themselves, right? If you can name one thing that your child or your children has taught you, what would it be?
That one's easy. It's patience.
Thing.
It's just patience. I mean, because remember, you're seeing them when they're babies for what they can become. And every day that they become that, you see them for who they were. It's this real crazy paradox. The older they get, they're entering college now, and I want her to be the baby that I used to hold. When she was a baby, I couldn't wait for her to own her own decisions and be her own person. And it's just this transformation, and it's just, you just got to be patient all the time, because you're really raising a person. And it has taught me just to kind of, let go and let them do some learning on their own. But it's been patience.
I totally agree, Kirk. I would say, there's really nothing like seeing a child grow right before your eyes. That's when you really realize how fast time flies. You have a baby, and my mother always said, when I had my first child, she said, don't rush them out the bed. Don't rush them to grow up, because they're a baby for a few years. Well, not even a few years, a baby for a year or two. Then they're a toddler. Once those stages are gone, they are completely gone. Then they're a preteen. But these phases go by fast. I never knew how fast a year can go by until I saw my baby go from a newborn to a toddler. So it really teaches you to slow down. And even when I say you as you become an adult and you get responsibilities, you don't even play anymore, right? So to have the patience to sit down and draw with a crayon or play with a toy, when you're an adult, just to break away from the constant paying bills and the responsibility that adulthood brings, is something that it's irreplaceable. I was super happy to be a dad, just so I can, when I realized how much it slowed me down in my everyday routine. So I would definitely say patience for sure.
I would say humility. That's what she's kind of brought into my life in particular, and I've been able to transfer that humility into the work that I do, and bringing humility into the advertising industry, for it to appreciate people that look like us, think like us, and have been on journeys like we've all been on, even though separately, but still respectable journeys. But it's humility, and literally, it's a word that I actually use when I talk to my clients. I'm like, it's about the humility. It's about having a freaking soul. at the end of the day. And that's one of the things that she kind of reminds me of every day. It's just like about being a human, because even when she was very, very small, probably around Sean's son's age, around 3, she didn't describe people as black or white. She described them as flavored. So so-and-so is chocolate, so-and-so is vanilla, so-and-so is like cinnamonish, or whatever the case may be. So it's always like these delicious ways in which she described people. And that right there to me was so precious. And that's something that, you know, just translated into the humility. But definitely humility is the word I would probably use.
I agree. I want to affirm everybody and just add self-love. My daughter really taught me how to love myself. I have never, there's no one more hard on themselves than me, especially growing up the way I did and kind of making sure I didn't go on the same path as my dad. And she really reassures me that daddy, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you continue to love yourself. I remember when I was running last year to become the council member in this area, and I was really frustrated on the campaign and really doubting myself. And she put on my hat and she said, "Hey, Daddy, I look like you. I'm going to be the councilman of the Bronx." And when she said that and looked at me, I said, "Wow, like you really instill in me that I should believe in myself and continue to love myself." So I think self-love and self-care, which is something I didn't even think about until I got older and had children. But she definitely taught me how to love myself more. So, yeah.
Thank you, guys.
That's real.
So now,
That's real.
yeah. I'm going to kick it over to Gishard now for the Q&A portion.
Yes, thanks so much, Marlon. And really, thank you to all our panelists. It's just honestly a pleasure just to be able to share this space with you all. And I've truthfully learned a lot just from sitting and listening, and just a great conversation. We want to take some time at the end to get to some of our questions. Thank you to those who submitted questions. Apologies if we don't get to them all. We have around 14 minutes left or so, but I'll just get to them in the order they came in. First one, this is open to anyone on the panel who would like to field this one. As an ally, how do I best help crush this and all misguided perceptions of the Black community? Is there more that I can do besides engaging people who have these stereotypes and, you know, try to use facts to show why they're wrong? This question is more so about the guidance behind that, for anyone who'd like to take that one.
I would say anything you can do to amplify the voice of the people creating change, right? So, you know, we start this platform. Sometimes support could be anything. It could be a like, it could be a share, it could be really anything to spread that education, right? We've been very fortunate, our org, to have partnered with some really amazing brands, you know, like Dove and Walmart, or just other people who allied companies who like helped amplify our voice, you know, so the message is getting out there, and it really does play a huge role. You know, the mission was to change the way the world views us, and if the world doesn't see us, you know, how can we change it unless we piggyback off of people with networks and platforms and resources to help spread that message and change that narrative of whatever stereotype we're trying to dismantle. So I would definitely say to, you know, anything you can do to share, you know, yes, engage your neighbor, engage anyone who you might hear talking about it. But for even those who aren't talking or saying something that's stereotypically untrue, I mean, share those that are share those that are telling a story, you know. So we'd appreciate anybody that shares a post or a message or anything that we put out there in the internet right now.
Appreciate that, Sean. Anyone else had anything they wanted to add to that? If not, we can move on. Just want to give everyone the opportunity to share on that one.
I think we're good.
All right, sounds good. All right, so next one we have is, again, these are anonymous for the most part, trying to read them verbatim. How can we also hold the criminal justice system and the overall government accountable for creating these narratives we melanin fathers have to endure? I ask because it's clear we're still living in a society that was created, manifested back when the founding fathers signed the Declaration for the melanin males to fail and the white males to remain superior. We just left 2020, and we are now even more reminded of how much work we have to do as human beings to gain that true equality in this American society, no matter our color. So how can we hold these institutions accountable?
I think getting involved with your community and local politics will definitely be a start. If you look at who goes out and vote, Black men are at the lowest. It's really our spouses, our queens that are really holding up our end when participating in local elections. And just recently in New York, after George Floyd passed away, we was able to change 50A, which was like a big bill that helps the police department become more transparent and be held accountable. That's just a small, not small, that was a law that was changed. We were able to change discovery, where the prosecutor can't hold evidence against the defense, because a lot of the times the defense doesn't know what the prosecutor has, so they'll take deals knowing that they didn't do anything to deserve to belong in jail. So I think getting involved in local politics, and also getting involved with your community. We live in our neighborhoods where we're never involved in our community. We don't get involved with the community, but we don't have a say. So we're not talking about, we make a lot of complaints, but we're not giving any suggestions and holding people accountable when we're giving these suggestions. So I'm saying get involved in local politics, hold your local elected officials accountable, and if they're not doing the job, vote them out.
And to piggyback on what Brother Kevin said, also get involved in your local schools.
Yes.
So we can slow down this, school to prison pipeline. We have to get more involved in our schools. It's incredible to see how very few dads, especially dads that look like us, that show up to like PTA meetings or get involved in different committees and things of that nature. If we do not use our voices in those spaces where our beautiful children spend most of their days at,
Yep.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, I love that. Those are definitely some tangible steps that people can take. So appreciate that. Next one we have is, as a Black father and being a part of the dad gang, when you encounter another Black man who is taking this responsibility of a father, how do you redirect, influence them to choose to be in their kid's life? I think that can be open to anyone who would like to answer as well, but let me know your thoughts there.
You know what? I think, look, we don't know anybody's situation, so you don't know the why of a person's circumstance. What I think the key is to not judge because you don't know, and then show them a different image. Like I said, I don't think we really understand how powerful what the dad gang has done. That's a powerful thing. Re-imagery is really powerful. They're coming from a place of ignorance, and you don't get them anywhere by pointing out the ignorance. What you may want to do is show them something that they couldn't have imagined and show them the reward that comes. They need to hear Kevin's story for him to explain that he doesn't become councilman without his daughter's influence in his life in changing his perception of what masculinity looks like. And those stories are what's going to make the difference. So I think Sean said it better than I'm doing it right now, but anything you can do to amplify another image and another story is going to help that next person. So for the allies that are out there, for our colleagues that are out there, for you, if you're in the situation, if you're just in the neighborhood and you see the dudes on the block and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, don't judge. You don't know why somebody's trying to provide for themselves or doing what they're doing or thinks that what they're doing is the right thing to do. Just give them something else to look at, and that'll start helping.
Yep.
Yeah, I do want to just affirm exactly what Kirk said. When we started the platform and just going over the type of content that we decided to share to change the stereotype, I was very particular in not bashing dads who weren't involved. It's really important. And if I ever shared something that bashed a deadbeat dad, it'll stand out like a sore thumb, because it's easier to change a person's perspective and their approach to fatherhood by empowering them before you judge them. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these situations, we don't know what background they're coming from. We don't know how they were raised. We don't know how those traumas affected them. And a lot of these men who don't step up to the fatherhood responsibility, it's usually because they're scared and they don't know how. It's never because they just naturally just don't, I don't want to say never, but 9 times out of 10 is not because they're a terrible human being and just doesn't want anything to do with this beautiful child. It's usually because they're scared. So if you could show them a better way, by, again, sharing anything and any examples that might be available to you, even your own experience, I think that's a better way to change that person's approach to fatherhood.
That's great.
Yeah.
Appreciate the answers there. Next one, this one is more about, we've touched on this a lot, but speaking more from the narrative of absentee fathers when bringing in that professional workplace lens. This person notes, oftentimes your coworkers may assume that your life was difficult, and it creates a sense of embarrassment if you unfortunately did have that situation. So how can we get past that narrative and address it in a way where you don't feel less than, even if you did have that absentee parent, especially for those who plan or are already actively involved as parents themselves? If there's any, words of advice there.
I think what I do, I'm a mentor also for President Obama's My Brother's Keepers Foundation. And one thing we do is we have a model called We Lift as We Climb. I take that model around because what happens is, especially in our community, I'm a very transparent person. I'll share my story just so I could let you know that I didn't take a loss, I took a lesson. And if you view me and you look at me as a successful person, and I'm able to share that transparent story and let you know, like, listen, man, I felt a lot of times, I went through a lot of bad, periods within my life where I could just completely say F it, excuse my language, but I could completely just say F it. I don't feel like doing this no more. I can't be a dad. I can't go to work. I just want to drown in my own sorrowness. But I won't, and just continue to be transparent and letting people know that, listen, I went through the same period that you're possibly going through now. And I was able to, pick myself back up and be able to conquer. And I'm a very resilient person. And resiliency is something that we were forced to do as Black people because we are faced with so much adversity. So I really feel like just being transparent with a young brother, if they are a part of their child's life, like Kirk said, you don't know anyone's circumstance. You don't know if they know how to become a parent. They don't know how to become a dad. I didn't have a dad in my life, so how was I supposed to know how to become a dad? I'm learning every single day. I call Sean a lot when I need to get advice. You know what I mean? So it's just having that support system. And Sean has been transparent with me a lot, just sharing, his struggles, what he went through. And I'm looking at Sean and like, Sean, you got everything together. Sean's like, hey, it may look like that, but I had to do this, this, and that. And once I heard his story, it made me feel like I could go through this. And I did. So it just becoming more transparent with one another and kind of showing each other that we learn more from our losses than we learn from our wins will definitely, help out another young brother trying to go through the same situation.
Yeah, if I could just add to that, because for real, what we owe each other is reaching a hand out and giving another person encouragement along the way. Like that's what's owed. This is a cycle, and if you really study Black history, you study our history from slavery. Remember, we were treated like animals, right? So the idea was that you separated the strong men because they could breed, and once you did that, you broke up the family. So family units didn't exist in slavery, and the mother played a completely different role in slavery, because she kept the children. And if the man was a good breeder, he was moved on to go do that someplace else. And that's carried forward. Now, let's be clear, that's not an excuse. What Sean's doing, what Kevin's doing is breaking the cycle. And we've got to create new images to break the cycle. So I think the important thing for us to do is when you meet somebody that needs to be told about the cycle, you need to help inform them, educate them on what's going on, give them a new picture of where they can go and how they can do it differently. I love what you just said, Kevin. These aren't losses, they're lessons. Take the lessons and share the lessons. That's what we can do to actually make the future different than the past.
That's definitely a quote that's going to stick with me. These aren't losses, they're lessons. really appreciate it. I know we have a few questions left. I'm gonna kick it over back to Marlon for those who can still stick around for a few moments, but I really appreciate being able to be a part of this with you all. Marlon?
Thank you, Gachard. So we have tons of questions that are still left to be answered. So I will extend about 10 minutes just to get as many of those questions answered. So if you can stick around, please do. And I hope the panelists are good to go as well. Kirk, are you good to go for another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course I am. Of course I am.
Thank you.
I ain't got. What else do I have to do? Come on.
So this question is from Paul. It's refreshing to hear dad talk. I have 2 young children. My son is 5. My daughter is 3. I grew up during the golden age of hip hop, and to the toxic masculinity point, I won't listen to the music I love as much anymore due to the fact of the lyrical content. I find myself listening to Taylor Swift, Miley Cyrus, etc. Do any of you find yourself doing this?
Don't go out like that, dude. Just don't go out like that.
I still listen to the same music.
Yeah.
I still listen to the same music, man. I don't think I think we're at a age right now where we could kind of separate real real lyrics from fake lyrics. So I still listen to the same music. Yeah, so I would say that.
Me too.
I got 2 little ones at home, and I've had the Trolls soundtrack on for months. You know what I mean? To the point where I find myself playing these soundtracks and these Disney music when I'm by myself. And I'm not embarrassed to say that either. So
they be hard though. A lot of them be good songs, man.
Good music out there for these kids.
All I can say is that it gets better because the older they get, then, that's when they employ headphones and earbuds and stuff like that. And then you can listen to, to Biggie, or even if you want to go as far as like Luke, you can listen to it and not feel, and just, enjoy it for what it is. Because at the end of the day, it's just music. Yeah. Are they saying like hella disrespectful stuff? Hell yeah. But it's just music. And if that keeps you from doing something negative in the world, and you could just be in your space as a dad or as a parent and just enjoy that music and that time, whether you're in your car or you're in your kitchen, because Lord knows that's where I listen to a lot of the really bad stuff is in the kitchen doing the dishes. But it makes me a better dishwasher, to say the least.
I gotta say, when I was like 17, I was spotting someone in the gym, and he had his big headphones on, and the music was blasting, and then the headphones fell off, and it was "Since You've Been Gone" blasting out of the headphones, and stopped me in the track. He goes, "I got 2 daughters. We share the same music account." I'm like, no, it's cool.
You don't gotta explain, brother.
You don't have to explain.
Not a question. This is an anonymous attendee. Not a question. Just want to thank you dads for the insight on fatherhood. Not a father myself, but very excited to be. And there's so much I wouldn't think that was brought up here. Much appreciated for this. So I thank you from the crowd.
Thank you.
This question is from Sylvia. How would you explain to a non-Black parent your experience as a Black parent?
Well, Sean said something really, something really, that example you gave, like after the very first question, because I remember going through something very similar, and someone was like, "Oh, you're on daddy duty," and I was like, "No."
Yeah, or your babysitting.
I was just like, "No, I'm being a father. Like, this is my child. She's from my loins." You know what I mean? It was just like, no, it's not babysitting. It's called being a father. And unfortunately, that's something that happens way too often. And it stings. I think it stung more when I was when she was like a lot smaller, per se. Now it's just like, if you see me, you see her. That's just how life goes. But normally, like when I was a younger father, like I took it very, very hard, especially as someone that grew up without a dad. I was just like, but what do you think I'm this guy that I never met in my life before? Like, I don't think so. And like, kind of like watch your tone even, per se, because it's incredibly disrespectful being a Black dad and someone just kind of viewing you as the babysitter, or it's your weekend or whatever. Even if it is your weekend, you're still a father, regardless of what day of the week it is.
I think, yeah, just being mindful of how you speak to a Black father, a Black family. Just to echo what Kirk said and what Sean said, I don't know one Black father who hasn't went through what Sean went through, where somebody has said something kind of like distasteful about you being a dad. I remember one time at work in Albany, I was actually in I post my daughters all over Facebook, so a lot of people follow me. And some lady said, "Your daughters are beautiful. They're so beautiful." And then before she gets off the elevator, she said, "They're with the same mother, right?" And I just looked like, why would you feel comfortable enough to ask me that? Like, I didn't ask you, how many times you've been married? Like, why would you feel comfortable enough to ask me that? So I just think being mindful of, how you speak to a Black father, because we're already going through so much already being Black fathers. So that's kind of discouraging us when we're hearing comments like that. So please just be mindful of how you speak to us when we're out with our parents. We're not babysitting. We're not just watching our kids. We live with them. We're around them all the time. Like, we take care of our children. So just be mindful.
And
Can
also
I add
science even says, sorry, Kirk,
No,
even
go ahead.
science, like statistically, Black fathers are more involved with their children than any other race of men. Like,
Yep.
that's what science says. So, I mean, it's in black and white on paper. It's been researched that we are more involved with our children than any other race of men on the planet.
So I'm going to take a different angle on the question, because I think, again, those answers are spot on right. You don't know our situation. Don't assume you know what's going on. The other side is, here's what's different being a parent of color, Black parent. As a parent, imagine all the things you worry about for your kids, all your great fears, because that's what parenting does to you. You're anxious almost all the time. Will they eat enough? Will they be tall enough? Are the kids at school, at preschool, gonna like them? Everything. Then you add another layer that says, will they be in danger wearing a hoodie? Will someone call them a name and they not know how to deal with it and be in trouble? Will they get hired even though they're qualified for the jobs that you put all this work in? And just add that additional layer of fear, and just know that that's sort of the soundtrack happening behind this moment where you don't have a manual. You got this little baby and you're trying to do everything you can for it. And there's this other soundtrack playing back here that's sometimes asking you, really, can you provide for this person? Can you do everything you need to do? And can you prepare them for everything that's about to hit them head on? And sometimes I just think we have to remember that. And if I'm speaking to allies out there, that's the thing you need to sometimes think about.
Yeah, and I got to jump on this question too, because now all of these answers are spot on, and you guys already know how the Dad Gang started. It came from a not so compliment. It wasn't a compliment, but when you ask to be a Black parent, imagine before your baby comes, you think about the names that you're going to give your children, and you tell yourself, let me not name them Deshaun or something that the world might perceive as ghetto, so their resume doesn't get bypassed when they go apply for a job. Imagine thinking to yourself, a name might be too Black before you have your kid. That's what it's like to be a Black parent. I got another example for you, having a girl. When we decided to settle down, we settled down in Long Island, and where this incident that happened with the older white woman. And part of in searching for a house, you got to think, I want to be in a good neighborhood, but is it diverse enough to raise my children? Can my children, are they going to be a minority? We're already a minority in America. Do I want my kid to be the only Black girl or Black boy in class, right? Now we moved to Long Island, and that is exactly what happens. Now we're in a good neighborhood, but my daughter is the only Black girl in her class who now ends up going through an identity crisis at 4. It's gonna make me emotional, because what happens is she comes home, and I have a very confident little girl who came home and she thought her hair was ugly. You know what I mean? Because all the girls in her class, oh wow, she thought her hair was ugly, and she like tugged at her hair because she wanted it to look like the other girls in her class because there was no diversity in the class. And now that's what a Black parent would have to go through. You know, these are the things that we have to think outside of the normal. You want to protect your kid because they're a kid. Outside of the normal, oh, you want them to have fun. You want them to have regular experience. This is what all parents go through, right? But for a Black parent, these are the different things that we have to consider as we navigate our parenthood moving around in America. This is what we have. So we're operating at a super high level and still having to put a smile on our face as we deal with these things. And just so you know, when my daughter went through that resulted in my wife cutting her hair off to regrow it naturally so she could find the beauty in her own hair. Imagine you cut your own hair off to regrow it naturally so your daughter, you know what I mean,
can appreciate herself.
That's what it is to be a Black parent. Wow.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Real talk right there.
I think we can end it there.
I'm sorry, guys.
Nah, man, that's
don't
that's
apologize,
real conversation.
Man. That's real.
It's real conversation.
Oof. On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday.
Turn up on a Tuesday.
Thank you guys so much. We have a lot of questions coming in about where we can get Dad Gang merch and how we can support the Dad Gang. So if you guys kindly just let the attendees know where they can find your merch and how they can support you.
You can find our merchandise on thedadgang.com. You could go there. You could pick up a shirt. It's not just for Black guys or Black dads. You could pick up anything you want. You could also
slides too.
Yep.
What? Oh, dude.
Yeah. Kirk, don't worry, you guys. I got you guys.
Dude.
You guys can also donate. There's an option just to donate if you feel so inclined. We recently launched our nonprofit. It's not up for donation yet, but it will be up within the next month or so. But if you want to donate straight to the website, there's a tab for that as well. Okay. And also just share the content if you can, please.
Okay. If you have anything that's labeled Cat Daddy, just let me know. I'll definitely go ahead and do that.
Cat Daddy.
And Keni, please let the people know where they can find more information on 100 Roses. And
it's pretty simple. Just 100rosesfromconcrete.com. You know, we're everywhere. You know, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're doing some really great things again this year as we move into. I mean, we're only a year old, but we're moving into our second year, and we're doing some really great things coming up this summer. That's it. 100rosesfromconcrete.com. That's it.
All right. Well, for all those whose questions we didn't get to, I apologize. There was just so much. Thank you guys so much. The recording will go out. When it goes out, please share it with everyone you know. This conversation shouldn't just stay between us. I feel like a lot of people can benefit from this. So I want to thank Kirk for coming through, Sean, Kevin, and Keni, Porscha, Scott, and Kashad Brevin. Thank you guys so much for making this happen. This has been an amazing conversation.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, everyone.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for having us.